Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. This is not the Ana Cabrera session. However, I have a great view of the hall. If she happens to pass by, I'll let you all know and you can wave, okay? Thank you for being here. After lunch, I understand if you might feel the need to close your eyes for a second, but there are Murrow faculty members here with us today, and they are taking notes, so don't do it. First of all, a couple of housekeeping items. Phones, please silence them. And out of respect for our panelists who have chosen to spend their time with you today, please consider giving them your full attention, including eyeballs. My name is Sherry Nebel. I'm a Murrow grad. I am a WSU Cougar wife, a WSU Cougar mom, and whatever dog pets we have at the time, they tend to wear crimson and gray. Let's see, our son graduated from here in 2012 and has flown in from North Carolina to be with us. That's Eric Nebel, 2012. That seems like yesterday. Additionally, for the past 2 decades, I've had the honor of serving on the Murrow Professional Advisory Board. A little commercial for that. On the Murrow website, you will find a link to all of us who are on the board. I would urge you to look at those profiles of people. Those folks are professionals who are here to help you. Connect with them on LinkedIn. Our networks are your networks. So today, I would love to have one takeaway, at least from this, and it's to reinforce the universal truth that a Murrow degree can take you just about anywhere. From network news anchor, next door, to local, state, or national politics, to United States ambassador to foreign nations, to running your own entrepreneurial business. There is power, there is opportunity in a Murrow degree. Our panelists today underscore that. They operate in the fascinating world of food production, the hospitality industry, and agriculture. But the common denominator is food. A deeply personal topic, and one that is filled with communication challenges and opportunities. Now I'm delighted to introduce the panel to you. On the far end, Eric Patrick has more than 30 years of experience leading communication and marketing programs in areas focused on fresh produce, consumer seasonings, Tajin, for my son, travel and tourism. He is the newly elected president of the Washington State Fruit Commission and the Northwest Cherry Growers. That organization is the promotional arm for all cherry growers in the 5-state Northwest Cherry region, with communication efforts that focus not only on North America, but also a robust global market including China, Taiwan, Thailand, Mexico, and other countries. As a Murrow graduate, he's also the Fresh Fruit Alliance Specialist for Tajin seasonings for North America. While Tajin was originally marketed as an enhancement for fresh fruit, I might personally add that it's an amazing pre-grilling rub for fish, chicken, and other proteins. While his professional accomplishments are numerous, Eric is extremely proud that he met his wife of 36 years on a blind date here at Washington State University. And there's more. All 3 of their children graduated from Washington State. Please welcome Eric. Oh, okay. Kimmi Devaney is an editor and podcast host with Progressive Dairy. Hold it up, Kimmi, hold it up. It's the nation's leading dairy farming magazine. Her communication efforts target a diverse and highly specialized audience, from forward-thinking dairy producers to veterinarians, nutritionists, and the milk quality experts who support them. Kimmi is a Murrow graduate and has a connection to agriculture that runs deep. Kimmi's a fourth-generation dairy farming family with roots that her family's roots trace back in dairy to the late 1800s. But what makes her story especially compelling is how early her purpose and professional goals aligned. As a 7th grader, studying for the 4-H Dairy Bowl, Kimmi discovered Progressive Dairy magazine and realized that she could someday be the person behind those pages. By age 13, this is really extraordinary, Kimmi had set her sights on becoming an editor for that very publication. While here at Washington State, she began freelancing for the publication and joined Progressive Dairy as an editor in 2022. Dreams do come true. Please welcome Kimmi. Logan Dozier was raised in the farming community of Waitsburg here in Washington. I did have to look it up. He developed an early appreciation for both agriculture and hospitality, an influence that continues to shape his career today. Though he planned on attending law school after graduating from Washington State, a meeting with the CEO of the Washington Hospitality Association took him on a very different career path. And in a manner that is so very WSU, that first meeting took place at the Coug. Today, he is Senior Manager of Insurance Services for the Washington Hospitality Association, where he leads the development of insurance programs supporting more than 6,000 members, while also advocating as a lobbyist to improve the insurance marketplace for the industry. In addition, he's the owner of Dozier Strategy and Solutions, working with state-level political candidates to help them effectively connect with their constituents. Please welcome Logan. Finally, today, someone many of you know. She is our hybrid panelist. Molly Schotzko is a Murrow graduate. She's an assistant professor in Murrow. She teaches advertising. And Molly and her husband own and operate a successful regional barbecue food cart, Miss Huddy's Barbecue, operated during COVID. And I understand the lines are long for delicious, high-end Texas-style barbecue. There are no handouts today, I'm sorry. Prior to joining the Murrow College, Molly had a successful 15-year career at Washington State in various marketing and communication roles. These stints included work for University Recreation, Central Marketing, and the WSU Foundation. Coming to today's panel, Molly stresses that her work in the classroom and in her business focus on creating positive brand experiences. Like a couple of others on today's panel, Molly also has an agriculture background. She is part of a 5th-generation wheat farm in Prescott, Washington, and has vivid memories of her family growing her own food when she was a child. Please welcome Molly. We would like to follow a format today where I will ask a few questions of the panel, but the success of this really rests with each of you, especially the students. This is your chance, on topic or slightly off, more about general communication work, breaking into your first job, et cetera. This is your chance to reap the knowledge and experience from this panel. So we'll start off, and I'd like each panelist, beginning with Eric, to take a couple of minutes to characterize your role specifically. What makes your work exciting, challenging, and ultimately rewarding? Eric, you start.
Thank you. And first, I'd like to have a round of applause for Sherry. She just got named to the Hall of Fame last night. So if you weren't there, congratulations, and it's an honor to have you as our moderator. So
thank you so much.
So thanks for being here. So I love fresh cherries. I got into the fresh cherry industry around 25 years ago. I was just named the president about 2 months ago, and I've been promoting fruit pretty much a lot of my career. It's such a great honor. We grow the best cherries in the world in Washington State and the 4 other states. We'll grow somewhere between 20 to 25 million cherries this year. We distribute to every state in the U.S. and to about 30 different countries, and it is just a pleasure to get to represent these growers. It's amazing the amount of work they put in year-round, and I know you talk with dairy stuff too. The amount of work these farmers put in, it's not just a one-day thing, it's a full year love for them to get this product out to consumers. And I'll ask a favor of all of you. The growers right now are hurting, so we need as much consumption as we can. So if I could get just everyone in the U.S. that votes to eat 2 pounds of cherries, we would have to grow like 10 million more boxes of cherries. So we just need higher consumption. So that's your mission. As soon as cherry season starts, which will be about June 1st, please go out and buy 2 pounds of cherries for me and just say, hey, I'm doing this for the growers, okay? It will make a difference. So that's my passion. And then one of the speakers said also always to say yes to meetings and stuff. And this was just random in my life. I had never heard of this little thing called Tajin. And about 15 years ago, the president of Tajin came to Yakima, Washington, of all places, looking for someone to put these little packets into apple bags. And they met with all of us white male produce directors at the time. None of us knew what it was. And then I was at a meeting with Food for Less in California, and they said, hey, we want to hit the Hispanic audience. Do you have any ideas? I'm like, hey, I ran into this guy that has this stuff called Tajin. He sent me 68,000 of these packets at no charge. I went to every apple producer I could in Washington, found one that said, sure, I'll put this in the bag for you. And then ever since then, it's grown, so now I represent Tajin with all fresh produce throughout North America. And it's just, had I not said yes to that meeting, I would have never met this guy. And it's led me to travels throughout like every state in Mexico, getting to go to their conferences. It's just been an amazing career experience.
And Eric, if I can interject, because this is a Cougar audience, Tajin is also a lovely thing to rim your glass of a cocktail for your.
Woo!
Okay.
Micheladas. And I have some samples afterwards if people are interested. So.
Drinks.
Kimmi.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, Sherry had me hold up the magazine earlier, but just for size and scale, it's larger than I am. But anyways, so Progressive Dairy is the leading dairy farming magazine for U.S. dairy producers. So it's been a dream come true for me to be part of our editorial team and actively involved in that. We publish 20 issues every year, so that means every 3 weeks we have a new, very large magazine arriving in more than 32,000 mailboxes nationwide. So that's dairy farmers, that's others that are involved in the dairy industry that are interested in the variety of topics that we cover, which are primarily those topics that help dairy farmers with their dairy farming business. Everything from employee management to nutrition for cows. So we think about the nutrition for ourselves, right? But there's also a dietitian for cows, genetic strategy, barn design, cow comfort, and a lot more. So at the magazine, I do a lot of different things. I could talk for a while about that, but I'll keep this really brief. One of the things I enjoy most is working with our industry contributors and our industry experts who write a lot of articles for our magazine. And so one thing that I really like about my job is that I get to help connect farmers with these people. And this information can help farmers better their businesses every day. The part of my job I love absolutely the most, I'm a little bit chatty if you haven't figured that out already. So I am our lead host for the Progressive Dairy podcast. So check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. We have a lot of fun on there with different guests and whatnot. And so I do all of our strategy for that and writing articles, the typical stuff that you think of with journalism, doing industry coverage from different events and all of that. And then piloting our magazine, which basically means that each editor will go through the entire process of looking through every single page when it's their turn and giving the okay to send it to print, which is very nerve-wracking with the first time that you do that because you're like, oh my gosh, am I going to be the one that sends a mistake to the printer and to all these mailboxes? No, there's a lot of eyes on it. But getting into the why of it is, Sherry give you a little bit about my background, so I won't rehash that too much, but I really, really love, based on my background and what she shared, that I get to do work every day that makes a positive difference for dairy farmers like my family and for the dairy industry as a whole. It's just very rewarding overall, and especially when a dairy farmer tells me that an article I wrote or a podcast interview I did has helped them think differently about a challenge that they're facing on the farm and has helped them find a solution. So a lot of challenges along the way, but those challenges help make us stronger, right? And so overall, there's a lot of opportunities in agriculture, so I'm excited to dive into some of that today.
I just want to reinforce that at such a young age, Kimmi had a vision of where she wanted to be. At about the same time when I was that age, I was still playing with Barbie dolls. So. Logan.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I am with the Washington Hospitality Association. That represents about 6,300 members. So the Coug, Valhalla, pretty much all the restaurants here in Pullman and around the state, like Ivers and hotels, are our members. What really got me to switch from law school and go into this industry was the ability to help people and also be a bridge builder. Throughout my time at WSU, that's really what I saw myself when I was on ASWSU and in the Greek community and IFC and working on the Chinook and building the fight song up along the stairs there, was how do I communicate effectively for people that might need that, and how do I build relationships and bridges? And so I kind of brought that, even though my CEO called me the incubation pilot coordinator when he hired me. I was like, what is that? He's like, you're just developing programs and everything. But what we pride ourselves on at the Hospitality Association is really being the AAA for the industry. So that means when restaurant owners or hoteliers call us, we try to solve their problems. That could be communicating effectively like we saw with COVID in a matter of 10, 15 minutes when things were changing. That could be education foundation and supporting the different skills that it takes to one day be a server, but one day own multiple restaurants and whatnot. Or that could be also really bringing new ideas to the industry through college and whatnot. But some of the other things we do is we try to, again, be the Costco effect too, and that's where I really work in negotiating deals like Costco does for the small employer so they can have the same buying power. That really wakes me up every day because I don't know what I'm going to wake up to. And honestly, I like that excitement. I like the thrill of not having a schedule and saying, okay, I'm going to do this. Maybe my day's 4 hours one day and maybe it's 12 to 16 hours. But I've really enjoyed that, and there's always challenges, but what I would say to that is be vulnerable, lean into those challenges, and really lean on the mentors and the friends that you come through here at WSU. It really will take you places.
And in getting to know the individual panel members as we worked toward this day, Logan reinforced his wide range of activities on campus during his student time. And that's something I think you might hear from others in the 2 days of the symposium. You are in the middle of a wheat field. There's no doubt about it. But there are incredible on-campus opportunities for communication professionals, whether you are more leaning toward video production or writing is your thing. The opportunities are out there, and the Murrow team will help you find something. Molly.
And then sometimes those wheat fields are right next to each other, which our families actually are, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
But I'm Molly Schotzko. My passion is definitely teaching when I look around and see many students. But I get the unique opportunity today to put on my Miss Huddy's barbecue hat, which in class I don't get to talk about a lot. So I talk about it a little bit when it becomes relevant. So I'm an entrepreneur. So outside of my teaching, I'm also the faculty athletic representative. So I do that as well. So I'm work really closely with athletics right now. But my passion for food, it stems from a place that's very deep. Food is an experience. I find my creative inspiration in creating with food. So one of my goals today of talking about a barbecue or anything like that with these esteemed colleagues right now is for you to think about what inspires you and how you can weave that into your career. If you would have told me 10 years ago I was going to have a Texas-style food cart here in Pullman that my husband would be running now full-time. I still run the business and the marketing, the communications, and work it every Sunday that we're open. And if you would have told me that and that I was going to be a professor and the faculty athletic representative, I would have asked what you were smoking. I hope I can say that. So you don't know where your career is going to go, and you don't know how these skills are going to help you. And so I just want to make sure and reiterate, if you have that passion and food is a part of it, these are all career paths you could take. And as those opportunities come about, you have the ability to solve problems. And if you have a vision and a dream here in the Murrow College, you learn those skills. And I am one example of this vision and dream that we have that now is something that's very special and important to me in my life. So there we are.
I would like to say something pithy about Molly, but I don't have to, because everyone you run into in Murrow, when they learned I was going to be working with Molly on the panel, said, "Oh, you are so lucky." And that's the best endorsement around, so thank you. Eric, let's start out with you. Your work emphasizes international markets. How have you cultivated the cultural and strategic competencies necessary to engage with global customers and audiences? What guidance would you offer students aspiring to internationally focused careers?
I did not understand I was going to get involved with international business at first, and especially fruit industry. And like you said, fresh produce is a wonderful field to get in, and we are desperate for young people. So if you haven't looked into that, go ahead. But on the international front, and I'll speak more specifically to cherries and apples and pears that I've worked with also. On the international front with cherries, we have several things that are of challenge. The first, we truly are the best growers of cherries in the world. And hands down, I would weigh that everywhere. Cherries are also expensive across the world, and there is more areas now growing cherries. So when I first got into this industry, I worked with a grower out of Hood River and the Dalles area, and they were really the only cherry shipper that went to England. And we worked with Tesco, and we had that business. We went to Tesco business meetings every year in London, and it was fascinating. And then Turkey started growing a lot of cherries. For us to get cherries to England, it was about a 20-day boat ride. Turkey could get them in about a 7-day boat ride, and it was less expensive. So in my career, we've seen our England market go from well over 1 million boxes to last year, I think we did like 60 to 70,000 boxes. So we have a very small window. So as the world has started to grow more cherries, we've needed to become more strategic. We need to develop new markets. Some of the things a few years ago when the first tariffs came for China, that really hit us on cherries. China used to be our #1 foreign market, ahead of Canada. Now Canada is our #1. But what that did do, it also made a switch in some of the ways we did business, because Canada wasn't affected by those tariffs. So Canada got to ship more to China that year. And we, in turn, I got a call from one of the major Canadian retailers saying, "Hey, we are losing our Canada supply because China's paying more. Can you come in with this?" So we are able to fill in with Canada there. So there's those type of opportunities that happen business-wise internationally. Some things we do also, we ship to about 25 to 30 countries given the season. I have an international trade rep. He is based out of Seattle, and he's like in South Korea right now. He'll travel Asia, all the Asian markets. We hire PR agencies, and many of those, so we have 10 different PR agencies throughout the world, advertising agencies in different foreign markets, in Australia. We don't have the Europe person anymore, but we have a couple in Asia, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan. And so we work with them, so we really understand the culture. One thing we've really had to overcome, it's just a simple branding thing, but in the US, we're known as Northwest Cherries because we represent the 5 states. And we produce 20 to 25 million cherries, like I said. California's second. They only produce about 8 to 10 million cherries a year. So we are by far the dominant cherry producer. And when we do go internationally, though, there's so many extra steps, and Sometimes we fly it at the start of the season. We put our cherries on air by planes. Smaller boxes, it's quite expensive. And then when we hit our heaviest volume of cherries, the airlines can no longer handle the volume of cherries that we ship, so then we put them on ships. So we need to make sure we have fantastic cold chains, that cherry, from the moment it's picked, it's almost in cold water, and we try not to get that out of the cold chain until it actually reaches the consumer. So that's really one of our challenges, is we grow the best cherries, but when we are not flying them and it's taken us 2 to 3 weeks to get a product overseas, we really have to make sure the whole team, from logistics, everything is just nailed in and ready to go.
How do you make sure that your team is culturally sensitive? I think about the Asian markets where fruit is sometimes treated much more differently than here domestically. How do you make sure your team is culturally sensitive and skilled?
Like to Asia specific and Japan and stuff, they pay a premium for cherries. So in cherries, there's all this different sizing that happens. So the bigger the cherry, the more expensive. So we actually have Asian inspectors that come, and they will stay in the warehouses. So like to a Costco, Walmart, Kroger that I meet with and do a ton of business with, we will ship truckloads to that. These Asian inspectors, they will come and look at the cherry lines, and they will just say, yep, I only want these 2 pallets of these biggest cherries, and they will sit there for 10 to 12 hours looking at every cherry saying, nope, I don't want this. And we identify like grower lots. So if you're grower A and grower B and your lot comes in and it's sweeter and bigger, we'll say, oh, we only want Kimmi stuff. Logan's stuff is garbage. So we really know our growers. We know, I mean, the farmers, the warehouses, they know, hey, this cherry orchard was grown on a south side hill with this, and there's all these different cherry varieties that you don't know. I mean, there's like 30 to 40 different dark cherry varieties. Most people might know Bings and Rainiers, but there's all these nuances within the business, and we do that. Culturally sensitive, in Asia, it's also a big gift-giving market. So the bigger cherries we can get, the better. So we can sell, in the US, we sell them in like 2-pound bags. In Asia, we create these little boxes that will have like maybe not quite a pound of cherries, and they'll only be big cherries, or they'll buy the biggest cherries, and then they put them into gift packs, and then they give as gifts. So in Asia and a few other countries, the fruit is really seen as a gift, and it happens with apples and stuff. So when you get a premium, you need to be sensitive to that. And then just real quick on the branding also, in the US, we're known as Northwest Cherries for the 5-state. Internationally, at first we had started doing Northwest Cherries, and we had a script font. Well, a lot of the countries couldn't read that. So internationally, we have to call ourselves USA Northwest Cherries, because otherwise people don't know what Northwest is. It could be Northwest of any country. So we make sure that it clearly says USA. And we do get significant funding, several millions of dollars from USDA and departments like that. So we go back to Washington, D.C. twice a year, telling the story of our growers and getting funding to help us promote overseas.
Thank you. Kimmi, how has the rise and increased visibility of plant-based alternatives affected the dairy industry, and specifically, how has it reshaped any communication strategies you have?
All right, so I'm going to approach this more from a PR standpoint. In my current role, I'm on the journalism side of the industry, but what we didn't mention is I spent the first 12 years of my career working in public relations in various roles ranging from a milk marketing cooperative to a State Department of Agriculture, and spent a lot of time working in dairy promotion. So I'm going to answer this question from a dairy promotion standpoint. Obviously, I can't speak on behalf of specific companies, and those companies are going to have specific and unique objectives based on what products that they have. So keep that in mind. So from a dairy promotion standpoint, I wouldn't say that we've significantly altered our communication strategy. When you look at the entire landscape, dairy is actually in about 97% of U.S. households in some way. So a lot of times when people think of dairy, they think of fluid milk, but everything from cheese to yogurt to ice cream to any of the other specialty products, innovation's been a big thing in our industry in the last several years. So I bet most of you have some kind of dairy product in your home, or at the home that you recently visited, maybe with your parents or somebody else. And so when it comes to alternative beverages too, it's important to look at what that combined market share is. So I looked up some stats as I was preparing for this, and in 2025, the combined market share between real dairy milk and alternative, or those imitation beverages, dairy had 90.7% of that market share in 2025, and that was up from 89.4% in 2021. So I also looked up some retail sales numbers as well, and the imitation dairy beverages, whether it's almond or soy or whatnot, they kind of peaked around 2021. They, of course, have their niche markets of their consumers that are really interested in consuming those beverages. But they fell about 6% in retail sales last year, and it's been a decline for the last several years. So as far as, is the dairy industry feeling like this is a big threat? And I hesitate to speak on behalf of the entire industry, but from where I stand and what I've done, I'd say no, it hasn't impacted how we do that. As far as what we do for our communication strategy, let's start by talking about what we don't do. So when you have a competing product like those alternative beverages, just like with, you hear gossiping about people and whatnot, what we don't do is talk poorly about competing beverages, because it takes the focus off of the good things that you could be talking about, right? So same kind of thing. So we prefer to talk about the nutritional profile and all the essential nutrients that are found in milk and other dairy products. So with the increased popularity of protein, for example, a lot of people want to eat as much Greek yogurt as they can. Another great dairy product to keep on your radar, since we're talking about this topic here, and I've got the mic, is ultra-filtered milk, which basically, it basically removes the lactose and concentrates the protein. So if you're looking for a great protein source, definitely look at that. Dairy Gold Fit and Fairlife would be two great brands to look at. So getting back to your question, Sherry, no big communications shifts from a dairy promotion standpoint.
Logan, operating at the intersection of hospitality and insurance, how did the COVID-19 pandemic alter your own professional focus, and what lasting impacts emerged from that time? Keep in mind, I would suspect a lot of the students here today were in high school or even possibly late junior high. Is that about right? So relive that time for us.
Yeah, it altered our association dramatically. I think, as I looked at the leadership of our CEO, and he led, I think, a really good ship, all of us became PR or newspaper consultants. We were trying to get the information out as fast as we could. Because what we saw is with the rules, restaurants had to either be open 25%, they could be open 50%, they could be open 100%. And then they were put in all different counties and all different areas and whatnot. And what happened was you had maybe one county or area that was at 25%, the other county or area was at 50%, and then people were crossing back and forth. And so what we had to do was we had to really go on the front and really tell the story about what the hospitality industry was doing right, and the compassion and the care that they were taking when they were serving their food, whether that be to go or whether that be in person. Maybe they opened their diners when they were at 25% or 50%, as well as with the lodging industry too. And so it really took a format of really kind of being not only intentional and quick to get out information, but also pausing and asking ourselves, what's the after effects of this as well too. The insurance market also changed too, because they're really focused on consistency and really predicting the market. And what happened there was the predictability then became non-existent, and so they were constantly trying to ask, well, do we insure this restaurant or this hotel for $20,000? Wait, they're only open 25% of the time. Do we go down to $5,000? So they were also trying to figure that out as well too. I think one of the core classes that really taught me how to support our team during that time was when we took on a project for the Palouse Humane Society, and we built a crisis communication plan together of if the Humane Society caught a fire or if an outbreak happened. And I remember going to our CEO and being like, hey, where's our crisis communication plan? And he's like, we've got kind of a blueprint here. And so we have phenomenal staff and everything, and we kind of all came together and said, and there were some Murrow people there as well too, and we kind of said, okay, here's what we need to do. Here's our core guidelines and everything. So it was like we were reliving that class, but in the professional world too. And then as we kind of started getting out of COVID too, we had to really tell the story of the impact on what went on. If you look at a restaurant, I bet a lot of you don't know that only restaurants make about 1.5% net margin. The national average is 4%. So when you look at a cheeseburger and you look at the pie chart of what a restaurant used to be pre-COVID and what it is today, it's a lot tougher. And I give a lot of praise to Molly and what she's doing here with her business and everything, because you got to kind of have that cougar grit now to really be in that hospitality industry, whether it's the lodging aspect or the restaurant. And we're seeing that still to this day, moving things. I mean, concepts are changing. You've got pop-up restaurants. You've got hotels that are maybe you can rent it out for the day and everything, say you're traveling. So we're constantly asking ourselves, how do we be the best brand ambassador for the so many members that we represent across the whole spectrum of hospitality?
Molly, our hybrid panelist. From your perspective, with a room full of students today, what core competencies should students prioritize if they intend to enter this field of agriculture, food, hospitality? Are there particular courses, experiences within Murrow or across WSU that you would recommend?
Thanks, Sherry. Yeah, I think looking around at this room at students, a lot of this I talk about in class, right? But when we talk about core competencies with food, something to remember is everything that you're hearing right now, this is the food we eat every day. This is our livelihood. When I make a choice as a restaurant to put mint in a coleslaw, that mint is a commodity that Washington State produces, or cranberries, or cherries. When I choose to purchase a food product that supports a menu item, so I think part of the core competencies is understanding the big picture. And you get that here in college. You also get that by traveling, by meeting other people. But when you're doing these things, you're taking these mental notes all the time. Okay, so if you've never been out on a farm and you've never experienced what it's like to ride in a combine, or you've never thought about, I never thought about the global cherry market, right? That has a direct effect on our prices every day, on the food we eat. So these core competencies for me, my first job here at WSU was International Marketing Program for Agricultural Commodities and Trade. I got a job as a science writer, walked into an office in Connors because my grandpa was a farmer. I needed a job. I wanted to stick around Pullman. Brought my science story, brought my resume, and so I had that job for about a year before I went to the WSU Foundation. I wrote a story on the mechanical cherry harvester in Prosser, and the marketing component of that was actually marketing to Asian markets of a clamshell of a stemless cherry, because the stem was the first thing to brown. So if you could market that product without the stem, it had a longer shelf life, thus could travel farther, blah, blah, blah. I don't know where that project went, because that was so many years ago.
It didn't go very well.
It didn't go very well. But my point is, it broadens our horizons. And as a writer, right, I got to experience these things. So what I can tell you about how we weave these things together is start to look at that big picture of what you want to do and weave that in. I love food and wine. I love flavors. I love experience. When I get to be a part of that market and weave my experience, find out for you what those things are and work that into your career. I thought when I graduated I was going to work definitely in sport, right? And food, I realize, now I'm in sport now, right? But I realize food is a passion of mine. And it is something that is very important to me, and it is something that I believe we deserve good food, good high quality food. When I choose our beef producer, I'm thinking about local in our definition, because we're butchering cattle with 2 briskets and not using any other of the beef, right? So people are like, why don't you do local, hyper local? Because there are only 2 briskets a cow, and you want to know how many cows we're butchering each weekend, right? You got to be big enough, but we use all natural, no hormone beef. Our supplier is actually Painted Hills out of Oregon is where we get our beef. But that was a very important thing for us of those types of decisions. My Murrow degree prepared me to make those types of decisions. It's constant problem solving. So core competencies, care about the food you eat, care about what you care about and have a passion for it, and understand you're gonna work really hard. So do something that means something. My hands, I never have fancy nails because I can't. Because I get my hands dirty. I'm like working with food, I'm doing dishes, I'm doing things, right? But that passion that I have, that is projected through the product. That's projected through my teaching. So I think it's just really important, nurture that passion. Everything else, you're getting great advice at Murrow Symposium. We're gonna have all sorts of core competencies. But for me, it's aligning that passion and understanding the world around you.
You are going into a job market and a professional life that is different than was faced 20, 30, 40 years ago. Sitting here, if you're in your early 20s, it's without a big financial windfall, you will likely work until you're 70 or longer. You are going to have so many opportunities to pursue jobs that pay the rent or jobs that fulfill a passion. And when you find a hybrid with both of those, it's magic. It might not last for 5, 10, or 20 years. It might be for 2 years or 3 years. The world is changing this way. But there are opportunities and things that you can do on campus today that open your mind to pursuing the things that matter to you. So we are about 9 minutes out from the end of this panel, and this is where we're going to turn to the audience. We would love to think that the students or other audience members have any questions. If you don't, there will be a random test. Please raise your hand. Any questions? Okay, the first on the random test.
Oh, we have one question there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious about affordability, because I just saw this article the other day. It says, are we all living beyond our means? All of us. And that includes the people in the K-shape, tops and bottoms. Are we doing that? And I'm just wondering, if everything is getting more and more and more expensive, how does that affect each one of you has a different
huge
view on what you do? Cherry prices have always been high. I've imagined with fuel costs going through the roof, you have to refrigerate everything. It's very fragile fruit, right? So the milk has to be refrigerated all the time. And I love the frozen. And of course, going to a hotel, going to a restaurant, all of that stuff, all those costs are going. So can you each address sort of like how it affects you personally and what you foresee is going to go up? Is it ever going to go down?
Who has the crystal ball today? I had it yesterday.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I'll say in small choices that we make, right? Like the year we opened, so we did all our food cart projections. The year we opened during COVID, just brisket price, which is one menu item, went up 150% in 1 year. It has gone up since then significantly. Texas now is starting to see those prices jump more significantly than they have, but here in Washington, those prices skyrocketed. What I say to everybody in this room, you have a very valid point in just as a consumer, but as a business owner, what I say is our communication is more important than ever. How the experiences that people, when they come to a food cart window, our expectations should be high. We should deliver a premier experience every time if we want to stay in business. And that, I was thinking about, like, you had some like crisis questions and things like that. So what I would say is all you communicators, how we communicate what we do now is more important than ever, because you're right, it is very, very expensive. And in order to keep upping those prices to stay in business, you have to deliver that experience in other ways. It takes creativity. We're only open twice a month. And then plus some catering. But that business model we had to build to be successful to the product that we wanted to deliver. And so those communications, when you only cook twice a month, you have to change your business model, and that's strategy.
And your customers stand in line, not necessarily knowing if they're going to get food or not, because when you're out, you're out?
Correct, although we hire somebody that goes down the line, just like they do at Franklin's, which we actually were trained by somebody that worked at Franklin's Barbecue in Texas, if you know barbecue, to learn how to do that and to make sure people don't wait too long in the line. But selling out of food is necessary for that profit margin. And so those are choices that we have to make, and we do that year round, even in the snow. So here in the Northwest, you gotta build something that is special, that other people become. And I think with food has to be something special. Hospitality is special, because our money only goes so far, right? It's special.
And it all comes back to the brand experience, correct? Okay.
And I would say, building upon that, I saw one of our members, Venison and Pho. They've got places along the I-5 corridor in Kent. And one of our employees, actually, he was a data guy at our association, but he was doing PR stuff behind the scenes with some of the restaurants, and now he's just killing it right now. But what he did was he told the story exactly what Molly said about the real impact, and he posted this video about, like, we heard you, our pho is really expensive when you come here. So this is how we are adapting to some of the meat and proteins that we're putting in here, and using more of the animal and using less of kind of the cost that is built into that. And it was because he was intentional in asking for feedback. And so I would say, as you go throughout your career and whatnot, as you're looking for what you want, ask for feedback from your peers as well too, and you can create a great thing at the end of the day too.
So I'm going to approach this question slightly different than I think you meant, but I think it'll circle back. So in dairy especially, but I've experienced this throughout agriculture, when it comes to our communication, the core part of that, of all of the strategies, really comes down to building trust. I think that's something that you'll hear throughout a lot of the panels that, this week. But everything, because as dairy farmers, we don't control how much milk is at the store unless we're selling direct to consumer. We get a very small portion of that, and our margins on the farm are already very tight, right? And so it's an interesting dynamic, and consumers don't really understand that. But regardless, we want people to keep buying milk, keep buying dairy products, and when they have so many different choices, ultimately they're deciding, okay, what provides the best nutritional value for me and my family, and what food do I trust, right? And so if they have a face on your industry, on your product, it's not just like, oh, there's a block of cheese at the store. I like cheddar. I can make a quesadilla. That's nice. But if you're like, I met a dairy farmer once, and I was really impressed with the care that they take with their animals and their land and all those things. That's going to reinforce that if they have to start making choices due to economics, that they may prioritize some of those. So I'd say with so many things, and I'm really generalizing here because we're short on time, but trust building is huge.
I would agree with that. And then also, there's more of a effort against eating so much processed food right now. So you're seeing that. So we are seeing some lift in different produce categories. So the fact that we are natural and everything like that, that is helping us with the higher cost. But it is higher cost, and what that really means to us as growers and the growers I represent is we have to deliver every time. There's very little room for error. So, because if someone comes and they buy that, when you guys all go out and buy that 2 pound cherries, like I said in that first week of June, I know you got to do, but if you go and you have not a great eating experience, you might come back. But I know you're all going to have a great experience and go on and buy 2 more pounds, so we'll be golden. So
We have time maybe for one more question. Yes.
I have a question for Kimmi.
Yes.
What's the information difference that you put in your magazine versus your podcast? And what
Good question.
Makes the difference?
That's a great question. So in case you couldn't hear what she was saying, what is the difference, if there is one, between what goes in print, what goes on the podcast? So really the same, we cover the same topics. With the podcast, we have our regular editorial podcast, which are what I work on, and then our sponsor cast, so that's more on the advertising side. So with our editorial ones, I'd say that the topics overall, we try to hit pretty much every main beat that we cover in the print magazine at least once throughout the year, along with getting as many dairy farmers as possible in there. Now, some years it's going to be more heavy on the business management or maybe genetics or repro or something like that. But at the end of the day, we try to get an even mix of that throughout all the episodes. And something I want to ask, or I want to share, because I don't know that it'll come up later, but so with my journey at WSU, I was an animal science major with an ag comm minor, which is different than a lot of the Murrow grads that you'll talk to. And that really set me up for success really well. And so if I could give you guys some advice, it would be to differentiate yourself somehow. Because it's so easy. My dad was a business grad from WSU back in the 70s, when in the business college or in communications, to become a cookie cutter copy of all of your classmates, right? And so heard about following your passions and aligning that. Try something new. Like maybe you join a club in a different college or something like that that piques your interest. You never know who you're going to meet. Networking has made the world a difference for me. And I started that in college. Learning how to effectively network is one of the biggest gifts I gave myself in college without realizing it at the time. And so try something new and just check things out and what piques your interest. And you can use your communications foundation that you're getting from all your Murrow classes and really extend your horizons, and that'll help you in the job market as well.
And use your connections too. We are
Yes.
all on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I love answering things on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions like that, feel free to connect with me.
So whatever panels you attend today, I hope you hear the common theme or it resonates with you in a way that reinforces Murrow and a Murrow degree and Murrow connections, I'll add that part, can take you so many places. You're going to do a lot of things in your professional life, and it's my hope for each of you that you cross paths with a cougar or two along the way. Thank you for joining us today.